everybody. Ben Edge coming at you with another Cove Worship guitar tutorial from our new album, Kingdom, available on iTunes now. Today we're going to learn how to play the song Kingdom Come, just kind of the really important guitar parts. Obviously, the first really important guitar part is that slammin' intro. It goes like this. So that's pretty easy. It's basically just kind of a pentatonic box shape. We start on, if you were to think of, kind of your regular pentatonic scale, I guess you'd think of it as D minor pentatonic. You've got your 1 right here in the key of F. And then 2 is actually, we're going to kind of shift a little bit. 2 is right here, and 3. So here's our box. That's where we're going to be sitting this whole time. Really the important things are just that downward 8th note movement. So it's basically just 3 3 3 2 3 3 3 2 3 3 3 2 3 5 3 2 3 3 3 2 3 3 3 2 3 3 3 2 1 6. That's the other important part, is that you hear that slide, but it can't just be, you can't just go on forever. You got to stop at this D note. You think of, here's a D. Stop at that D note. That's the 6th interval of the chord of the key of F. So now let's take a minute to kind of look at sort of how the tone goes. It's a pretty simple tone, just a little bit of quarter delay and some sort of medium drive, distortion or overdrive. You don't really want to slam anybody with a bunch of killer tone until you take that guitar solo. So it's just sort of, sorry, that's a bit more verb than I need. Just a little bit of reverb to kind of help it sort of bleed the notes together or kind of glue them together. So it's basically just. So again, let's look at those notes just to make sure we've got it. We're on the 2nd string on the 10th fret. And then we're going to fall back to the 8th fret. 10, 8, 10, 8, 10. And then we're going to jump up to the high E string on the 8th fret. Then back down to the 10th fret on the B string. Back down to the 8th fret on the B string. 10th fret on the G string. And then back down to the 7th fret. So that's pretty easy. Okay, so now let's learn how to play the verse. After we play our little intro the 2nd time, so we do the intro, there's a broken down verse, and then we play the intro again, and then this time for the verse, we play this little line. Now, basically, it's just kind of like playing off of an F bar chord, right here where we find our root on the 5th string. So here's what it looks like. You've got your pointer finger on the 8th fret, 5th string, and then here's how I bar it, right here on the 10th fret, the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. But what we're going to do is we're going to shift our fingers. Instead of using my ring finger here, I'm going to use my pointer finger to bar all 3 of those. And then there's a few sections where I'm going to throw my 3rd finger on the 12th fret on the 3rd string. So basically you... That's the pattern. Pretty simple. Let me slow it down for you. You just do that over and over again until you get to that pre-chorus, at which point you just hold these 2 notes. And then kind of let the rest of the band, or you can fall back to the chords in that section until we get to the chorus, which at that point is just chords. So now let's kind of talk about what we're going to do for tone on that section. We're actually going to switch our quarter delay to a dotted 8th delay. Now I have a fancy delay that has some presets, so I can, with one button, I can change from a quarter to a dotted 8th. Or some of you guys are running 2 delay pedals, so you can have one set to quarter, one set to dotted 8th. if you've only got one delay pedal, just one stomp box that can only do one delay time, I'd say stick with the quarter at this point. It's not going to distract anything from the song. It's not going to hurt the guitar part. But if you had that dotted eighth on the intro, you're going to get this weird like tennis game, ticka-taka, 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 and it's gonna kind of distract from the impact of that intro. So go ahead and stick with the quarter. So we're going to keep the same amount of overdrive as we had on the intro, just sort of a medium sort of gain. The same amount of reverb, just enough to kind of glue the notes together. Think of it kind of like a sustain pedal on a piano. And then now we've got this dotted eighth delay. So if we were to tap it in, 1, 2. And notice it's kind of subtle. It's not really in your face, kind of the edge. U2, ticka, 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 ticka. So the next section of the song, there's one last thing we're going to learn how to do, is just the chorus. When the chorus kind of builds up, we want to add a little bit of energy. So instead of sort of subtly playing the chords down here, we're going to go ahead and play a bit of a riff right here, up the neck, so it's a little higher, cuts through the mix a little bit better, and we're going to be just rocking those eighth notes. Da, 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 da. So it's pretty easy. All we're doing is following the chords. You're going to start with your second finger on the second string, 11th fret. You're going to put your first finger on the third string, 10th fret. And that's it, just those two notes. And then what you're going to do is you're going to lift off the second string, and then you're going to bar with your first string on that, with your first finger on that second string on the 10th fret. So those last two chords, all you do is you add your pinky right here on the 13th fret, second string. Now here's where it gets a little tough. That last chord is kind of a bit of a stretch, but since we're so far up the neck, it's not really that big a deal. So all we're going to do is we're going to slide our first finger back 1 fret to the 9th fret. So all together it sounds like this. Just keep that going. Now that can get a bit mundane and repetitive, and once you kind of master that and you sort of know which notes go in the chords, you could even change it up a little bit. You know, something like that. Just get a little creative with it. The tone goes back to the intro tone. It's just a good amount of overdrive, quarter delay, and just a bit of reverb, just enough to kind of glue the notes together. And imagine the full band just rocking behind you. You got the kick drum going and the bass and the other electric guitar, or if you're using stems or whatever, just chugging those chords. So big and huge and loud and awesome. All right, that's it. Thanks, and enjoy playing.